Enraged protesters take to the streets in Afghanistan as outrage erupted over the burning of a Koran at a small church in Florida that took place late last month. The demonstrations that followed have turned deadly, with the AP reporting that at least 21 people have been killed since Friday. Now, the man responsible was Pastor Terry Jones, the same man who threatened the hateful act last year during the heated debate over the proposed Ground Zero mosque. Now, because of his actions, the lives of our brave men and women serving overseas may be even more in jeopardy. General David Petraeus attempted to quell the anti-American sentiment by denouncing the burning of the Koran.
We condemn the action of an individual in the United States who burned a holy Koran. That action was hateful, it was intolerant, and it was extremely disrespectful. And again, we condemn it in the strongest manner possible.
And joining me now with reaction are the hosts of True Talk Radio Show on WMNF and the founder of United American Voices for America, Ahmed Bedier, and the founder and president of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy, Zuhdi. Jasser is back with us. Guys, thanks for being here. Ahmed, let me start with you.
Thank you.
I interviewed the pastor on my radio show today, and I think if General Petraeus and Secretary of Defense Gates say that this is going to put our troops in jeopardy, I think as an American citizen, you have a right to understand it's their lives on the line and that we should honor their request. But he does have freedom of speech to do it. Your reaction?
Well, obviously he does have freedom of speech. I mean, Americans have freedom of speech to goose step and wave Nazi flags outside synagogues. But is it the right thing to do? I don't think so. We live in the United States of America, not the divided states of America. Terry Jones is irresponsible. What he did was immoral, and frankly is an act of being an idiot. But the people responding with violence is more idiotic.
Well, what's immoral about it?
Well, putting our troops' harms at risk. He knows specifically. The president said it.
Okay.
Clinton said it. No, I mean, he has the right to do it, but just because you have the right to doesn't mean it's the right. It doesn't mean it's the right thing or the good thing to do. Especially when you're harming the very same people that are trying to keep you free, and everybody around the world is telling you it's going to put troops' lives at risk, other people's lives at risk. And as a man of God, you need to bring peace. If you're following the footsteps of Jesus, Jesus is a peacemaker. You need to have that compassion like Jesus did.
Oh, I just think, you know what, we've got to consider that the risk that this may pose. Now, with that said, Zuhdi, let me ask you this question. Because I think you agree with us that he shouldn't have done it. He should have listened to Secretary Gates and General Petraeus. You agree on that point?
Yeah, absolutely. But, you know,
Go ahead.
I'll tell you, I think that the issue is much bigger than this, though, is we as Muslims, you know, I'll let the rest of America and the bishops and the pastors and the rabbis condemn him and show him to be the marginal, demented moron that he is. But at the end of the day, I as a Muslim, and I hope Ahmed and others that claim to be leaders of the Muslim community see that there's no moral equivalency here, that simply burning a scripture is not equivalent to the murder and the violence that happened. And not to mention, Jones is just one part of this bigger picture of freedom of speech, which we see with Geert Wilders on trial in Europe, which we see with the Christian minister in Pakistan that was murdered because he wanted to speak against blasphemy laws, which we see in Canada with Ezra Levant, which a rally in Orange County that now they have misrepresented and they're putting on a commission. So, you know, the issue is a much bigger one in the front lines.
Listen, how many times have we seen images of American flags in the Middle East being burnt? How many times have we seen, you know,
not a single time during the revolutions that are happening right now.
Well, burned in effigy is another case. There have been incidents of Bible burnings in the past that have come up. In 2009, our own government, Bibles that have been sent over. You know, why is it if there's a cartoon that some people in the Islamic faith find offensive, why is it there this reaction? And why don't we see the reaction comparable in other religions?
Well, I think that what has to happen is that we need reform. We need to separate mosque and state. This concept that the state should be Islamic, that law, especially they say Sharia law needs to be in government, they then empower themselves to be oppressive, autocratic, and oligarchical to where they tie the speech against Islam to sedition, to the state's power, etc. And until Muslims, American Muslims especially, start leading movements to separate mosque and state and say that we speak against political movements like the Brotherhood and others, that so many groups, and I would call on Mr. Bedier to speak out against political Islam and the Brotherhood and other groups that advocate for laws that prevent complete free speech to where there is nothing protected. Because I'll remind you, our founding fathers...
Let's get a word in here.
Yeah, Mr. Bedier.
Yeah,
well, I'm sorry, what did you say?
Well, why is there this double standard? Go ahead.
I don't think there's any double standard whatsoever. Terry Jones and everybody has the right to say what they want.
No. I don't have a lot of
this
time.
country, we also have the right to...
Hang on a second.
But we have to address what Zuhdi just said.
But there's in as much as if there's a cartoon that is offensive to Muslims, if in this case a Quran is burned, give me a comparable example where there is this reaction, where 21 people died, violent reaction, because people are offended by the actions of an obscure minister in Florida, in Afghanistan.
No, it's not about the obscure. It's not about the obscure minister. If you saw what the press release of what Al Qaeda or the Taliban had said in Afghanistan, they said that the Western media and Western governments have dismissed this as free speech. Instead of considering the resolution and condemning Terry Jones after the fact, our government should have been condemning him before the fact.
Who should? You just heard General Petraeus condemn it. He said it was evil.
I'm saying
who do you want to condemn this?
The key word here, Sean, with your selective hearing, is condemning it after the fact. We should have condemned it. This happened on March 20th.
Who do you want to condemn
this in the butt back then. Condemn the hatred against... Let me finish. I think Zuhdi had plenty to say. Let me just explain myself so I could have a word in.
We don't have a lot of time.
If we would have done this beforehand, if we would have condemned it way beforehand, then this would have had nipped the violence and it wouldn't have happened. I think the people there are violently reacting, not about the Quran necessarily, but because
the last time, which is why he stopped it. Why do people react this way?
Their anger there is because they're under a 10-year occupation. They've seen tens of thousands of their own people getting killed. The occupation continues to be a problem there.
You are justifying it here,
Ahmed. No, of course not. It's not justified. No, it's not justified.
You have to recognize, what you haven't recognized is that there's a continuum of radicalization, that this is just one endpoint of an ideology of political Islam that feeds into this type of ideology.
Just because I provide an explanation does not mean it's justification.
Thanks for
being with us. It's not justification.
Sneak peek of what's coming